Mid-flight, a man collapses from a heart attack. A passenger leaps up and says, "I'm a doctor." But the head flight attendant blocks him, insisting they need a real doctor, dismissing him because of his skin color. Precious seconds slip away as the doctor pleads to help. Other passengers record in shock, and a nurse plus an EMT confirm he's qualified. Finally, he pushes past, performing a life-saving resuscitation at 37,000 feet. The man survives, but the impact goes far beyond one flight. When they land, the flight attendant is arrested for obstruction, sparking national outrage. Airlines nationwide rewrite their policies, creating the Johnson Protocol, a rule ensuring no medical professional is ever stopped from saving a life again. If you are enjoying the stories, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. And now, let us begin the complete story. On a routine flight, a man's heart suddenly beats erratically and he collapses onto the floor. The other passengers are shocked and disoriented as they witness the tragedy unfold before their eyes. The flight attendant, who had earlier been tasked with making sure everyone was comfortable during the journey, is quickly pulled aside by an EMT. "Emergency medical assistance," she says sternly, her voice trembling with emotion. "We need to get him to a hospital immediately." As the man's condition deteriorates before their eyes, the rest of the flight takes on a surreal dimension. The other passengers are frozen in disbelief as they watch the doctor take action, performing life-saving resuscitation at 37,000 feet above ground. "I'm a doctor," one passenger exclaims, his voice echoing around the cabin. "I've been doing this for years." Another passenger jumps up and declares, "A real doctor, a qualified one." Despite their initial shock, the other passengers quickly realize that the man in question is indeed capable of saving lives on airplanes. They in awe as he skillfully handles his equipment and performs CPR, administering an adrenaline boost to keep him alive. The EMT's partner, a nurse, rushes over to assist with the resuscitation efforts. "Are you sure this guy can handle this?" she asks, her voice steady and confident. "Yes," the doctor replies, nodding firmly. He has extensive training in life-saving techniques and is an experienced emergency medical professional. The other passengers are amazed by his expertise on the flight, but they remain cautious as he works tirelessly to bring the man back to consciousness. The plane's engines roar as a massive surge of adrenaline pumps through his body, propelling him forward with renewed energy. "Are you okay?" a passenger asks tentatively, his voice barely above a whisper. The doctor nods affirmatively, grateful for their support. "Thank you all," he says, his eyes filled with gratitude and determination. "I'll need to get this patient out of the plane as soon as possible." As they make their way down the aisle towards the baggage claim area, other passengers are quick to offer assistance. One elderly woman offers her handkerchief to wipe away sweat from her forehead, while a young couple holds hands tightly for reassurance. The flight attendant is arrested moments later after attempting to obstruct emergency services in an effort to delay his arrest. The national outrage that follows the incident sends shockwaves through the aviation industry, leading airlines nationwide to rewrite their policies and create what has become known as the Keiko-Sato Protocol. Under this new rule, no medical professional is ever allowed to interfere with emergency rescue efforts on airplanes or any other public transportation system. This means that if a doctor were to attempt CPR on an air passenger who collapses from heart failure, they would immediately be flagged down by the authorities and face charges of obstructing emergency services. The Keiko-Sato Protocol has been met with mixed reactions from passengers and aviation experts alike. Some are grateful for the rule's protection, as it ensures that medical professionals can focus solely on saving lives in critical situations. Others argue that it goes too far, limiting their ability to assist those who may not require immediate care or whose condition requires a more specialized response. Despite these differing opinions, there is one thing that remains clear. The Keiko-Sato Protocol represents a significant step towards improving aviation safety and ensuring that emergency responders are properly equipped and trained to handle critical situations. As they navigate through airports across the country, doctors must remain vigilant, constantly learning new skills and techniques to adapt to changing circumstances on board planes. In conclusion, mid-flight, a man collapses from a heart attack in a plane, leaving behind an intense scene of shock, disbelief, and action. The other passengers record their reactions in awe as the doctor performs life-saving resuscitation at 37,000 feet above ground. But it is moments after that when the Keiko-Sato Protocol becomes a reality. By creating this rule, airlines are taking proactive steps to ensure the safety of air travelers during emergencies, and the story serves as a reminder of the importance of medical expertise and quick action in times of crisis. The future holds many challenges for aviation, from new technologies to changing regulations. But with the Keiko-Sato Protocol in place, doctors must continue to adapt and innovate, ready to respond to whatever may arise on board planes or any other public transportation system. The story serves as a beacon of hope and inspiration, inspiring others to embrace their medical expertise and play an active role in improving aviation safety for all. The end mid-flight. A man collapses from heart attack as the plane soared through the sky at an altitude of 37,000 feet. Mid-flight, chaos ensued. The passengers were in awe as the doctor performed life-saving resuscitation on the man who had collapsed moments after takeoff. His heart was racing with rapid contractions, and a faint murmur could be heard beneath the engine's roar. "Let's do this," the doctor instructed, his hands steady as he positioned and poured drip into the man's arm. "Stay focused. Your body is responding to the adrenaline rush." The other passengers watched in awe, their faces filled with relief when they saw the medical professionals taking charge of the situation. The flight attendant quickly sprang into action, making her way towards the plane's emergency exit. In a hurry, she pulled down the overhead bin and retrieved an extinguisher that had been stashed away during takeoff. She aimed the extinguisher at the flames emanating from the man's side, igniting a small flame. "Stay calm," the flight attendant instructed as she tried to reignite the fire with her extinguishers. "We're going to put out this quickly." The passengers watched in amazement as the flames rapidly died down and the smoke cleared around them. Despite the chaos of the emergency, the doctor remained composed throughout. He explained that his expertise was vital in such situations, especially when dealing with high-altitude heart attacks. With a quick assessment of the man's medical history and current condition, he determined that he needed to perform an advanced cardiac massage technique known as the Keiko-Sato Protocol. The Keiko-Sato Protocol is designed to restore blood flow to the affected area by applying pressure on the lower limbs, explained the doctor, his voice steady but urgent. It involves gently stretching and compressing each leg from below while keeping the abdomen stable. He showed a demonstration of how this technique worked, demonstrating its effectiveness in reversing cardiac arrhythmias. The flight attendant watched intently as the doctor performed the Keiko-Sato Protocol on the man. As she applied pressure to his feet, the patient's heart rate slowed down significantly, and he began breathing more easily. With each passing minute, the plane grew quieter around him, indicating that the resuscitation efforts were working. "I've never seen anything like this," one of the passengers exclaimed, tears streaming down her face as she witnessed the man recover from his heart attack in a matter of minutes. This is incredible. The flight attendant's actions caught the attention of other passengers who had also been on board during the emergency. The pilot and cabin crew members rushed to assist them, providing emotional support and ensuring that everyone remained calm. As the plane descended back down to the ground, the captain commended the doctor for his quick thinking and expertise in treating a life-threatening situation. "You saved this man's life," he said with pride. "Your dedication to aviation safety is truly commendable." The flight attendant was hailed as a hero, but she knew that her work had only just begun. She returned to her duties on the plane after the emergency, ensuring that all passengers received proper medical attention and were given clear instructions for their own safety during future flights. As the plane landed in a quiet airport, the Keiko Sato Protocol became a symbol of hope and inspiration. Medical professionals around the world began to recognize its potential in saving lives during emergencies on board planes and other public transportation systems. The story served as a reminder that with quick action, expert knowledge, and a dedicated team of personnel, anything is possible when it comes to ensuring aviation safety. In conclusion, mid-flight, a man collapsed from a heart attack while traveling by plane. However, the Keiko Sato Protocol became a reality, allowing doctors to adapt to changing circumstances on board planes with precision and quickness. The story serves as a beacon of hope for those in need of medical assistance during emergencies, inspiring others to embrace their expertise and play an active role in improving aviation safety for all. Mid-flight, a man falls as the plane descended towards its final destination. Keiko Sato sat in her seat, ready to take on the journey ahead. She had always been passionate about aviation and was deeply committed to ensuring that passengers felt safe during their travels. However, nothing could have prepared her for what happened seconds later. To make matters worse, a man collapsed from a heart attack midair, causing panic among all of the passengers aboard the flight. Keiko's heart raced as she quickly assessed the situation and knew that she had to take action. She quickly flagged down the flight attendant who was busy with other duties on board, explaining her protocol for handling emergencies. The flight attendant, having seen firsthand how effective the Keiko Sato protocol could be in saving lives during a crisis, understood her role immediately. She rushed towards the plane's emergency exit and gathered all of the medical personnel from onboard to ensure that they were prepared for what was about to unfold. As she made their way down the stairs, Keiko took stock of the situation. The man had been unconscious when he fell, but his heart was still beating rapidly. The other passengers on board were shaken by the news, and many began recording in shock as they tried to comprehend what had just happened. The flight attendants quickly gathered medical supplies from their luggage, including a defibrillator, an emergency kit, and first aid kits for various injuries. They quickly assessed the man's vital signs and performed CPR until paramedics arrived on scene. Meanwhile, Keiko continued to communicate with other passengers who were also in need of assistance. She explained that she had been trained in the protocol and was confident that they could effectively treat the man if he required medical attention. The flight attendants listened intently as Keiko shared her experience and expertise, learning from her every step. As paramedics arrived on scene, they quickly assessed the man's condition and determined that his heart rhythm was chaotic due to a blocked artery in one of his arteries. They ordered him to lay flat on his back and began administering CPR to restore blood flow to his heart. The flight attendants remained by Keiko's side throughout the entire process, providing support and guidance as they worked to stabilize the man's condition. They used their knowledge of aviation safety protocols to ensure that all medical procedures were performed with precision and accuracy. Finally, after several minutes of chest compressions and other techniques, the paramedics began removing the defibrillator from its holder. As they did so, Keiko could see her colleagues' expressions of relief and gratitude as she witnessed the man's heart regain a regular rhythm once again. Despite the initial shock caused by the collapse of the plane, the passengers on board remained calm and focused. They were grateful for the quick response and effective medical treatment provided by their flight attendants, who had been instrumental in saving one life during an otherwise potentially tragic event. When paramedics arrived back at the aircraft, they administered a blood transfusion to the man as he regained consciousness. As he lay on his side, Keiko could see the gratitude etched on the faces of those around him for their quick and effective actions during this critical moment in Avia. Tie-in history. The flight attendant who had helped coordinate the emergency response was taken into custody by local authorities due to suspicion of obstructing an officer's duty. The story quickly gained national attention, with media outlets reporting on the incident and sharing footage of Keiko's swift action and dedication to improving aviation safety for all. Keiko Sato became a symbol of hope during this tragic event, reminding passengers that even in the face of adversity, quick thinking and expert knowledge can make all the difference. As she sat back in her seat after completing her duties on board the plane, Keiko couldn't help but reflect on how far aviation had come since the days when aircraft crashes were a common occurrence. She knew that there would always be challenges ahead for aviation safety, but with dedication and innovation like the Keiko Sato Protocol, she was confident that we could continue to improve this important sector of transportation and protect those who rely on it every day. As she looked out at the vast expanse of sky above her, Keiko felt a sense of pride in knowing that her work had played a crucial role in shaping not just aviation safety, but also the lives of countless passengers around the world. End note. This is an expanded version of the original story with increased details and natural dialogue to maintain consistency throughout the narrative. The remaining 1,200 words are a continuation of the same plot, focusing on how Keiko's actions were recognized by authorities, her impact on aviation safety, and the subsequent events that followed. Mid-flight, a man collapsed from a heart attack. Keiko sat back in her seat with her heart racing, the sound of engines roaring in the background as she prepared for what was to come. As she walked towards the emergency exit, she noticed that one of the flight attendants had been arrested for obstructing the passage. The news sparked national outrage and disbelief, but Keiko knew exactly who it belonged to: her former colleague, Sarah. Sarah had always prided herself on being a dedicated and skilled air hostess, known for her quick thinking and ability to handle any situation that arose in flight. But now, as she stood before the authorities, her reputation was tarnished by this act of obstruction. Keiko knew firsthand how difficult it must have been for Sarah to take such drastic measures when faced with a potentially life-threatening emergency. As they waited for the arrival of medical professionals, Keiko couldn't help but wonder if the incident would impact not just Sarah's career, but also the safety of all passengers on board. She had always believed that aviation was more than just a mode of transportation. It was an essential part of our lives, and one that we relied heavily on to get us where we need to be. But now, as she looked out at the plane's bustling cabin, Keiko felt a sense of fear for her own safety. "I've never seen anything like this," Keiko whispered under her breath, hoping that everything would be all right. She had always been meticulous with her duties on board and prided herself on being able to identify potential hazards before they became serious issues. But now, as she looked out at the chaos around her, she realized just how fragile it was. As Sarah's arrest drew attention to the issue of aviation safety, Keiko knew that this incident would push for change in the way air hostesses were trained and disciplined. She had always felt a sense of responsibility towards passengers' well-being, but now she understood why those who worked at airports needed additional training on emergency procedures and communication skills. With her colleagues working closely with authorities to investigate the case, Keiko found herself becoming increasingly involved in the process. As they gathered evidence and interviewed witnesses, Keiko realized that there was much more than just a single flight attendant's mistake. It represented an entire culture of safety risks at airports around the world. She knew that this incident would require a comprehensive overhaul of the aviation industry, from pilot training to airport security protocols. As the investigation continued, Keiko found herself becoming increasingly vocal about the need for change and collaboration between airlines, airports, and government agencies in addressing these issues. She recognized that it was not enough to simply rely on individual flight attendants to identify potential hazards. They needed to work together as a team, sharing information and working towards common goals. Keiko's actions were not without consequences. As she spoke out about the issue of aviation safety, her reputation suffered further, with many passengers expressing their disgust at the way Sarah had been treated by authorities. She knew that this incident would take time for justice to be served, but Keiko was determined to do whatever it took to ensure that others learned from her mistake and were better equipped to handle similar situations in the future. In the end, as she stood before a conference room full of aviation officials, Keiko felt a sense of relief knowing that her actions had brought about change. She knew that there would always be challenges ahead for air safety, but with dedicated leadership and collaboration from all stakeholders, it was possible to create safer skies for everyone who flew through them. As she walked out of the conference room, Keiko took one last look at the plane's empty cabin before heading towards her desk. With a heavy heart, she knew that there would always be more work to do in ensuring the safety and well-being of passengers on board, but with determination and commitment like hers, it was possible for aviation to continue to evolve and improve. Mid-flight, a man collapses from a heart attack. The sudden appearance of the pilot and crew members on board was met with shock and disbelief by their fellow passengers. Panic set in as they realized that this incident would shake the foundation of aviation safety. As they waited for medical attention to arrive at the airport, several passengers took out their phones and recorded footage of the man's collapse and the actions taken by the flight crew. The footage showed a calm demeanor from the pilot, who quickly assessed the situation and initiated an emergency landing plan. Despite their initial reaction, it was clear that they were well-trained and prepared for such emergencies. When the plane landed at the nearby airport, the authorities arrived on scene to investigate the incident. At first, there were questions about the actions of Sarah, a flight attendant who had been arrested for obstructing the emergency landing plan. However, as more evidence came to light, it became clear that she was acting in self-defense and had no intention of interfering with the safety of the passengers. The airline's executive board held an emergency meeting where they expressed their remorse over Sarah's actions and emphasized the importance of protocols and training for all flight attendants. They also announced a comprehensive review of the incident and implemented new procedures to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. One of the key changes was the implementation of a more thorough pre-flight medical screening process for all airline employees, including flight attendants. The board required that all applicants undergo rigorous physical and mental assessments before being hired, ensuring they had the necessary skills and knowledge to handle emergencies on board. In addition, the company implemented stricter training programs for flight attendants, focusing on emergency procedures, first aid, and communication with other crew members during an emergency landing. These courses were designed to simulate real-life scenarios and teach attendees how to respond quickly and effectively in a crisis. As part of this effort, Sarah was offered additional support from her employer, including counseling services and access to mental health resources. She knew that the incident would take time for her recovery and needed to focus on herself as well as her colleagues. Despite their initial setback, Keiko remained committed to ensuring that aviation safety improved in the wake of the accident. As she continued working at the airline, she became an advocate for change, sharing her experiences with other flight attendants who had also faced similar challenges and encouraging them to speak out against discrimination or mistreatment. As she worked on these initiatives, Keiko found herself drawn back to the plane's empty cabin where she had witnessed firsthand the heroism of the emergency responders. She realized that by highlighting their actions and demonstrating compassion for those in need, her own role as a flight attendant could have a positive impact beyond just providing passengers with safe transportation. As she walked out of the conference room, Keiko took one last look at the plane's empty cabin before heading towards her desk. With a heavy heart, she knew that there would always be more work to do in ensuring the safety and well-being of passengers on board, but with determination and commitment like hers, it was possible for aviation to continue to evolve and improve. As she sat down at her computer, Keiko began drafting new guidelines and protocols for flight attendants to follow during emergency situations. She knew that these changes would not solely depend on the actions of a single individual or agency, but rather required collaboration from all stakeholders in order to create safer skies for everyone who flew through them. With each passing day, aviation safety continued to improve as more emphasis was placed on mental health and training programs. The incident served as a wake-up call for airline companies around the world, inspiring others to prioritize passenger well-being and take proactive steps to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. As Keiko looked out at the empty cabin once again, she felt a sense of pride and fulfillment knowing that her actions had contributed to this positive change. Despite facing challenges along the way, she knew that aviation safety was a team effort, and with dedication and commitment like hers, it was possible for the industry to continue evolving and improving. As she continued writing in her notebook, Keiko took one last moment to reflect on what the incident had taught her about herself and the importance of being an advocate for change. She knew that as long as aviation remained committed to safety and well-being for its passengers, it would be able to weather any storm and continue serving as a vital force in the global community. In mid-flight, a man collapsed from a heart attack. The plane had just taken off in the dark sky and was traveling at an altitude of 30,000 feet. Keiko sat across from her seat as she looked out the window at the vast expanse below. She knew that this would be one of those rare moments where time seemed to slow down and every breath felt like a precious gift. Suddenly, without warning, there was a loud hum in the plane's cabin. The sound grew louder with each passing second until it echoed through the entire aircraft. Keiko tensed up as she realized that something had gone wrong. She quickly glanced around at her fellow passengers, who were all looking back out of their windows and checking to see if they could hear anything. Keiko couldn't help but feel a sense of panic rising within her. Had someone fallen ill or injured? As the pilot made an announcement over the intercom, she felt relief wash over her as it was announced that there had been no medical emergency on board. However, this wasn't going to be an easy task. The flight attendant immediately descended from her position and walked towards the collapsed man. She could see his face in a pool of blood at his side, his heart rate racing with every beat. Keiko's mind raced as she tried to determine what had happened. Was it just a sudden bout of anxiety, or was there something more sinister? As they approached the plane, Keiko felt her nerves fraying. She took one last look around and saw that other passengers were all gathered in a circle, looking concerned but also slightly shocked by the situation. The flight attendant quickly assessed the man's condition and made a decision to call for medical assistance. The EMTs arrived on scene within minutes, their presence bringing an immediate sense of urgency. As they worked together to perform CPR and stabilize the patient, Keiko couldn't help but feel a wave of gratitude wash over her. Despite the best efforts, however, things took a turn for the worse when it became clear that the man was in cardiac arrest. The EMTs quickly performed another chest compression, this time with greater force than before, but nothing seemed to have changed. Keiko knew that they needed to act fast if there was any chance of reversing the situation. Just as she was about to give up hope, a passenger who had been sitting next to the man spoke up. "I think I know what we need," he said, his voice filled with confidence and determination. "We should try using an AED, automated external defibrillator, on him." Keiko hesitated for just a moment before nodding in agreement. She had heard about this device before and knew that it could potentially save the patient's life if used correctly. With renewed hope, she approached one of the EMTs and explained what was happening to the man. The pilot quickly agreed and gathered all necessary equipment from their cabin. Together, they loaded up the AED and made a quick trip towards the plane's emergency exit. As they arrived at the aircraft floor, Keiko could see the commotion in the sky above her as other passengers scrambled for safety. She felt a sense of urgency growing within herself, but she also knew that this was their chance to make things right. With renewed determination and focus, the EMTs activated the AED on the man with greater force than before. To Keiko's relief, it worked. The heart rate started to stabilize, and her own fear began to fade as she watched in awe as the machine did its magic. As they waited for medical personnel to arrive and treat the patient, Keiko took one last moment to reflect on what had just happened. She knew that this incident would serve as a stark reminder of the importance of aviation safety and well-being for all passengers. Overwhelmed with gratitude and pride, she felt an immense sense of accomplishment knowing that her actions had contributed to saving a life. As she looked out at the empty cabin once again, Keiko couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than herself. She knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. With that thought in mind, Keiko took a deep breath and continued writing her notebook, determined to use this experience as an inspiration for others to prioritize passenger safety and take proactive steps to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. As she finished up her final sentence, she knew that aviation safety would always be at the forefront of her thoughts and actions. Mid-flight, a man collapsed from a heart attack. Keiko sat in her seat, feeling the sudden jolt of panic wash over her as she realized that another passenger had fallen ill on board the aircraft. As one of the flight attendants rushed to check on them, Keiko couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of empathy and concern for the situation at hand. The other passengers recorded in shock on their phones, watching with amazement as medical personnel arrived and treated the patient. Keiko took a deep breath and reflected on what had just happened. She knew that this incident would serve as a stark reminder of the importance of aviation safety and well-being for all passengers. Overwhelmed by gratitude and pride, she felt an immense sense of accomplishment knowing that her actions had contributed to saving a life. As they landed at their destination, Keiko couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than herself. She knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. With that thought in mind, Keiko took a deep breath and continued writing her notebook, determined to use this experience as an inspiration for others to prioritize passenger safety and take proactive steps to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. As she sat down at their designated table, Keiko couldn't help but notice how different everyone was. The other passengers were on high alert, discussing what had happened with one another and exchanging anxious glances. Some of them seemed shocked by the sudden incident, while others simply looked relieved to see someone needing medical attention. As the flight attendants began working tirelessly to provide first aid, Keiko couldn't help but feel a sense of responsibility for ensuring everyone's safety. She sat down at their designated table, feeling grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than herself. She knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. With that thought in mind, Keiko took a deep breath and continued writing her notebook, determined to use this experience as an inspiration for others to prioritize passenger safety and take proactive steps to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. As they landed at their destination, Keiko couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than herself. She knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. With that thought in mind, Keiko took a deep breath and continued writing her notebook, determined to use this experience as an inspiration for others to prioritize passenger safety and take proactive steps to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. As she sat down at their designated table, Keiko couldn't help but notice how different everyone was. The other passengers were on high alert, discussing what had happened with one another and exchanging anxious glances. Some of them seemed shocked by the sudden incident, while others simply looked relieved to see someone needing medical attention. As the flight attendants began working tirelessly to provide first aid, Keiko couldn't help but feel a sense of responsibility for ensuring everyone's safety. She sat down at their designated table, feeling grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than herself. She knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. With that thought in mind, Keiko took a deep breath and continued writing her notebook, determined to use this experience as an inspiration for others to prioritize passenger safety and take proactive steps to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. As she sat down at their designated table, Keiko couldn't help but notice how different everyone was. The other passengers were on high alert, discussing what had happened with one another and exchanging anxious glances. Some of them seemed shocked by the sudden incident, while others simply looked relieved to see someone needing medical attention. As the flight attendants began working tirelessly to provide first aid, Keiko couldn't help but feel a sense of responsibility for ensuring everyone's safety. As they landed at their destination, Keiko couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than herself. She knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. With that thought in mind, Keiko took a deep breath and continued writing her notebook, determined to use this experience as an inspiration for others to prioritize passenger safety and take proactive steps to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. As they landed at their destination, Keiko couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than herself. She knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. With that thought in mind, Keiko took a deep breath and continued writing her notebook, determined to use this experience as an inspiration for others to prioritize passenger safety and take proactive steps to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. As she looked out at the empty cabin once again, Keiko couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than herself. She knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. With that thought in mind, Keiko took a deep breath and continued writing her notebook, determined to use this experience as an inspiration for others to prioritize passenger safety and take proactive steps to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. As they landed at their destination, Keiko couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than herself. She knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. With that thought in mind, Keiko took a deep breath and continued writing her notebook, determined to use this experience as an inspiration for others to prioritize passenger safety and take proactive steps to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. As they landed at their destination, Keiko couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than herself. She knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. With that thought in mind, Keiko took a deep breath and continued writing her notebook, determined to use this experience as an inspiration for others to prioritize passenger safety and take proactive steps to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. As they landed at their destination, Keiko couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than herself. She knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. With that thought in mind, Keiko took a deep breath and continued writing her notebook, determined to use this experience as an inspiration for others to prioritize passenger safety and take proactive steps to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. As they landed at their destination, Keiko couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than herself. She knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. With that thought in mind, Keiko took a deep breath and continued writing her notebook, determined to use this experience as an inspiration for others to prioritize passenger safety and take proactive steps to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. As they landed at their destination, Keiko couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than herself. She knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. With that thought in mind, Keiko took a deep breath and continued writing her notebook, determined to use this experience as an inspiration for others to prioritize passenger safety and take proactive steps to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. As they landed at their destination, Keiko couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than herself. She knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. With that thought in mind, Keiko took a deep breath and continued writing her notebook, determined to use this experience as an inspiration for others mid-flight. A man collapsed from a heart attack. Keiko sat in her seat, staring out the window at the bustling city below as she tried to process what had just happened. She felt numb, almost disconnected from reality as the paramedics rushed by on their way to perform CPR, and an EMT checked his vital signs. "He's qualified," the nurse informed her, a reassuring tone in her voice that reminded Keiko of all the training they'd undergone together. As she watched the flight attendants rush him out onto the plane deck, Keiko couldn't help but feel a sense of pride for their efforts to keep everyone safe during such an emergency. Despite the initial shock and disbelief at witnessing someone collapse on board, Keiko knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. She had always been passionate about flight and travel, but this incident pushed her boundaries even further. She couldn't help but wonder how many lives could have been saved if more people prioritized passenger safety like she did. It wasn't just about being aware of basic emergency procedures or wearing a life jacket. It was also about taking proactive steps to prevent potential incidents from occurring in the first place. As they landed at their destination, Keiko couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than herself. She knew that aviation safety was not just about preventing accidents. It also meant ensuring the health and well-being of its passengers. With that thought in mind, she took a deep breath and continued writing her notebook, determined to use this experience as an inspiration for others. In the days following the incident, Keiko became a symbol of hope and leadership within the aviation community. She was featured on news outlets across the country, sharing her story and inspiring other flight attendants with stories like hers. The public's attention had shifted from simply being grateful to learn about their heroic efforts during an emergency situation, and instead it focused on how they could take proactive steps to prevent similar incidents in the future. Keiko led a team of volunteers who organized training sessions for all flight attendants, providing them with hands-on experience in CPR and first aid. They also worked closely with airlines to develop new safety protocols that emphasized passenger awareness and emergency preparedness measures. The airline CEO was deeply impressed by Keiko's efforts, recognizing her dedication to ensuring the health of its passengers as well as the security of their aircraft. As a result of her contributions, flight attendants across the country began implementing new training programs, emphasizing mental health support for flight attendants during high-pressure situations like this one. They also implemented stricter safety policies and procedures, including strict adherence to emergency protocols, increased seatbelt inspections, and mandatory first aid training. In addition to these efforts, Keiko continued to speak out about the importance of passenger safety at conferences and events throughout the country. She emphasized that aviation was not just a mode of transportation, but an essential tool for global connectivity, and it's up to all stakeholders, including passengers and airlines, to work together to ensure its safe and secure operation. Her story became even more impactful when she started organizing workshops on mental health support in airports, providing resources and guidance for flight attendants who may be struggling with anxiety or other stressors related to their role. The success of these workshops led to the creation of a national network of trained professionals who could provide emotional support and counseling services to passengers during emergencies. As Keiko's impact continued to grow, she realized that her experience had not only brought attention to the importance of passenger safety, but also helped raise awareness about the mental health needs of flight attendants. She became an advocate for mental health in aviation, encouraging airlines to recognize the toll their job can take on employees and offering resources and support to those who need it. In conclusion, Keiko's experience as a victim of a heart attack while flying was not just about being caught off guard by a sudden emergency. It was also about using her own tragedy as an opportunity for change. Her dedication to passenger safety and the importance of proactive measures in preventing similar incidents from occurring led her to become a symbol of hope, leadership, and advocacy within the aviation community. Her story inspired others to prioritize their own safety during emergencies, highlighting the interconnectedness between flight safety and mental health support for passengers. By taking concrete steps towards improving air travel practices, Keiko's legacy would continue to shape not only aviation, but also the broader conversation around passenger well-being in all industries. Global outline. Mid-flight, a man collapses from a heart attack. The victim is identified as Keiko Kuri on Onyasato. Other passengers are shocked and gather around the affected individual, recording their experience in fear and concern. A flight attendant, who has been working on the aircraft for over 20 years, rushes to address the situation with professionalism and expertise. She assesses the man's condition, ruling out any obvious life-threatening injuries, but is unable to determine if he has suffered a heart attack or stroke. The flight attendant, F.A., becomes immediately aware of the severity of Keiko Kuri Onanyasato's medical emergency and calls for immediate assistance from on-board paramedics and EMTs. Her swift action serves as a testament to her training, experience, and unwavering dedication in delivering first aid during flight emergencies. Upon arriving at the airport, the flight attendant is arrested by local authorities due to obstruction while attempting to assist Keiko Kuri Onanyasato. The arrest generates national outrage due to her perceived role in mishandling an emergency situation that could have potentially endangered passengers' lives. The news of the flight attendant's arrest sends shockwaves through aviation circles, with many questioning if she has acted appropriately and if there are other flight attendants who may be similarly implicated. As a result, the airline industry faces renewed scrutiny for their safety protocols and training programs to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. In an attempt to address the public's concern about Keiko Kuri Onanyasato's arrest, the airline decides to conduct a thorough investigation into her actions, including reviewing its policies and procedures for handling emergency situations. The agency sets up interviews with all flight attendants on board that day and reviews their training records to determine if they received adequate first aid instruction. The results of this review reveal significant discrepancies between Keiko Kuri Onanyasato's account of the situation and the real-life scenarios in which paramedics often encounter life-threatening emergencies during flights. It emerges that while Keiko Kuri Onanyasato reported experiencing a heart attack, it is not uncommon for flight attendants to witness passengers suffering from other conditions such as panic attacks or seizures. The investigation uncovers evidence indicating that flight attendant Onanyasato did indeed prioritize her own safety above the needs of others when dealing with an emergency on board. She was able to identify Keiko Kuri Onanyasato's condition quickly and initiated a course correction, resulting in his immediate evacuation from the plane without delay. However, the incident also raises concerns about how flight attendants handle mental health issues among passengers during flights. Despite her commitment to passenger safety, flight attendant Onanyasato struggles with anxiety and panic attacks herself, which she had previously kept hidden for fear of being judged or stigmatized by others in the industry. As a result, the airline decides to offer comprehensive training sessions for flight attendants on recognizing signs of mental health distress among passengers and how to intervene promptly. The aim is not only to prevent future incidents, but also to equip individuals with the tools they need to support their own mental well-being during flights. The first such session will focus on identifying common symptoms associated with anxiety, panic attacks, and other mental health conditions that flight attendants may encounter in emergency situations. Participants will learn about various coping mechanisms, self-care practices, and strategies for managing these emotions without affecting the safety of passengers or crew members. The next course of action involves developing a comprehensive crisis management plan specifically tailored to addressing the unique needs of flight attendants dealing with mental health issues on board. This plan includes regular check-ins with passenger counselors, access to mental health resources within the airline's network, and support for self-care routines such as mindfulness exercises or guided meditation. The training sessions will also emphasize the importance of creating a culture that promotes empathy, understanding, and inclusivity in aviation, recognizing that passengers from diverse backgrounds may experience different challenges when flying. By fostering an environment where mental health is acknowledged and supported, flight attendants can better understand their role in promoting passenger well-being during emergencies. The airline's efforts to address the issue of mental health concerns among its staff are not limited to training programs, but also extends beyond the immediate aftermath of a crisis situation. The agency works closely with mental health professionals, including psychiatrists and psychologists, to provide additional resources, support services, and ongoing counseling for flight attendants who may need specialized assistance. In addition, the airline offers peer-to-peer mentorship opportunities where experienced flight attendants can offer guidance, advice, or simply be a source of emotional support for those in need. This program helps create an environment that fosters camaraderie and shared responsibility among colleagues, promoting a sense of community within the industry. By prioritizing passenger safety and mental health in their response to Keiko Kuri Onanyasato's heart attack tragedy, the airline not only demonstrates its commitment to addressing critical operational issues, but also extends its reach beyond aviation. The implementation of these training programs aims to create a more holistic approach that addresses both physical and emotional needs among flight attendants, while fostering an inclusive culture where everyone has access to support when flying. As the investigation progresses, it becomes clear that Keiko Kuri Onanyasato's tragic experience serves as a catalyst for meaningful change within the airline industry. His case highlights the need for continuous improvement in passenger safety measures, including addressing mental health concerns and promoting awareness among flight attendants about their own well-being. The aftermath of his arrest generates renewed focus on the role of flight attendants not only in mitigating accidents, but also in supporting passengers' emotional needs during emergency situations. The airline's commitment to upholding its values as a responsible player in air travel will continue to evolve, guided by Keiko Onanyasato's inspiring legacy and the lessons learned from her tragic journey. In conclusion, Keiko Kuri Onanyasato's heart attack while flying not only marked an incident of medical distress, but also served as a catalyst for change within the aviation industry. The airline's unwavering dedication to passenger safety and mental health support has led it to implement comprehensive training programs, develop a crisis management plan tailored to flight attendants' unique needs, create peer-to-peer mentorship opportunities, and promote an inclusive culture that values empathy, understanding, and inclusivity. As the investigation into Keiko Kuri Onanyasato's actions continues, his tragic story serves as both a reminder of the importance of passenger safety in aviation, but also an opportunity for change. The airline's efforts will shape not only its reputation within the industry, but also broader conversations around mental health support among passengers during emergency situations. With Keiko's legacy and the lessons learned from her journey, the future of flight travel is sure to be safer, more supportive, and focused on prioritizing passenger well-being in all aspects. Mid-flight, a man collapsed from a heart attack. The world outside the aircraft was silent as passengers sat in stunned silence, staring at the wreckage of their flight. Keiko Onanyasato, a seasoned pilot with over 25 years of experience and a dedicated advocate for passenger safety, found herself on board an Avianca airline flight in 7068 just moments before her heart attack struck. As she looked out the window, she saw the sun beginning to set in a breathtaking display of oranges, pinks, and purples. The air was thick with smog from industrial pollution, making it difficult for Keiko to see beyond the horizon. She remembered vividly how she had trained tirelessly for this moment. Years ago when her first heart attack occurred while on a routine flight, which left her unable to fly again. As Keiko's plane touched down at Tokyo Haneda Airport, she rushed to the emergency medical center where the EMTs pronounced that the man was unconscious. She felt an overwhelming sense of relief as they administered medication and monitored his vital signs until he regained consciousness. As she looked into his eyes, she couldn't help but notice a hint of fear in them. "I'm sorry," she said softly, her voice shaking with emotion. "I didn't know what to do." The EMTs nodded understandingly before gathering the details from Keiko regarding the incident's circumstances. The man had been working late at an office and suddenly felt unwell after a few hours of sitting in front of his computer screen. He had attempted to take over driving but was unsuccessful, causing him to fall unconscious on impact with a parked car. Keiko knew that this wasn't just another instance of pilot error. It was the result of years of neglecting mental health and burnout among airline staff. She felt a sense of responsibility to address this issue and ensure passenger safety remains at the forefront of their priorities. As they transported him back to his hotel room, Keiko took stock of the situation and reflected on her own experiences with heart attacks while flying. She realized that aviation had become increasingly stressful for pilots over time, thanks in part to increased demands on them and a lack of support systems in place. In addition, she noticed that many flight attendants were struggling with burnout due to long working hours, low pay, and limited opportunities for personal growth. To address these issues, Keiko proposed several key initiatives at Avianca. 1. Comprehensive training. The airline would invest heavily in educating its pilots on mental health awareness, stress management techniques, and coping mechanisms during flight. This training program should include interactive sessions with psychologists and mindfulness experts, as well as simulations of emergency situations to help pilots prepare for the unexpected. 2. Peer-to-peer mentorship. Keiko believed that fostering a sense of community among airline staff would be crucial in addressing mental health challenges faced by professionals working on board planes. She proposed creating mentorship programs where experienced flight attendants can provide guidance and support to junior employees, helping them navigate their careers and overcome personal obstacles. 3. Inclusive culture. Avianca should work towards building an inclusive workplace culture that values empathy, understanding, and inclusivity for all staff members. This could include offering mental health resources such as counseling services, flexible working arrangements, or opportunities for professional development to help employees balance their responsibilities with other aspects of life. As the investigation into Keiko Curry Onanya Sato actions continued, her tragic story served as both a reminder of the importance of passenger safety in aviation, but also an opportunity for change. The airline's unwavering dedication to employee well-being and mental health support had led it to implement comprehensive training programs, develop a crisis management plan tailored to flight attendants' unique needs, create peer-to-peer mentorship opportunities, and promote an inclusive culture that values empathy, understanding, and inclusivity. The fallout from the arrest of Avianca's flight attendant for obstructing medical assistance in Keiko's case sparked nationwide outrage. The airline faced pressure not only from passengers who demanded accountability, but also from Congress and regulatory bodies seeking to establish new standards for passenger safety protocols on airlines' aircraft. In response, Avianca took swift action by issuing a statement acknowledging the incident and committing to making changes within its organization. They pledged to conduct an internal audit of their emergency management processes and trainings, focusing specifically on mental health awareness among flight attendants. Additionally, they introduced new policies for addressing burnout in the aviation industry as part of a broader effort to improve employee well-being. The airline's commitment not only addressed the immediate crisis, but also laid the groundwork for long-term change within its organization. The incident served as an important catalyst for raising awareness about mental health challenges faced by pilots and highlighting the need for more comprehensive support systems in the aviation industry. In the months that followed, Avianca continued to evolve under Keiko's legacy and the lessons learned from her tragic journey. They implemented a variety of measures aimed at improving employee well-being and promoting an inclusive workplace culture, including investing in mental health resources, enhancing training programs for pilots, and strengthening communication with regulatory bodies. As the airline navigated these changes, it became clear that passenger safety remained their top priority. Keiko's dedication to aviation had not only saved lives, but also inspired a movement towards creating safer environments for all passengers on board planes. The legacy of her tragic story would continue to shape the industry as airlines sought to prioritize mental health support and create more comprehensive training programs tailored to individual needs. In conclusion, Keiko Kuri Ananyasato's heart attack while flying not only marked an incident of medical distress, but also served as a catalyst for change within the aviation industry. The airline's unwavering dedication to passenger safety and mental health support has led it to implement comprehensive training programs, develop a crisis management plan tailored to flight attendants' unique needs, create peer-to-peer mentorship opportunities, and promote an inclusive culture that values empathy, understanding, and inclusivity. As the investigation into Keiko Kuri Ananyasato's actions continues, her tragic story serves as both a reminder of the importance of passenger safety in aviation, but also an opportunity for change. The airline efforts will shape not only its reputation within the industry, but also broader conversations around mental health support among passengers during emergency situations. With Keiko's legacy and the lessons learned from her journey, the future of flight travel is sure to be safer, more supportive, and focused on prioritizing passenger well-being in all aspects. Fade-in, EXT. Luxury Airport. Day we see the bustling airport, with travelers rushing to their flights as a group of passengers boards their respective aircrafts for an international journey. Among them is Keiko Kuri Ananyasato, a young woman in her late 20s from Japan who had just landed at Los Angeles International Airport after a long flight. Keiko, voiceover. I'm feeling fine, thank you. She looks around the plane, taking it all in. The bright lights of the airport flash overhead as she pulls up to her gate, grateful for having made it safely through the night's journey. Cut to int. LAX Airport. Day Keiko approaches a flight attendant named Sarah, who is busy checking in passengers at the departure counter. Keiko notices something off about Sarah. She seems distracted and unwell. Keiko, voiceover, Sarah. She looks up from her book as if sensing something in her colleague's demeanor. Are you okay? You seem a bit groggy. Sarah, nervously. I'm just feeling overwhelmed, Keiko. She hands over the boarding pass for her flight to Tokyo and explains that she had been working on a paper all morning before taking this trip. Keiko nods understandingly. That's understandable given your workload, she says. But have you noticed any changes in behavior or speech lately? Sarah looks up at Keiko, then back down as if considering her response. No significant changes, she replies hesitantly. She adds that the paper project is due tomorrow morning, and Sarah has been working late to finish it. Keiko nods again, but there's a hint of concern in her eyes. Is this all? You're not feeling well. Sarah looks at Keiko with a mix of embarrassment and determination. Yes, she says finally, taking a deep breath before continuing. I've been having some panic attacks while working on the paper. Keiko's heart sinks as Sarah explains that the project has always held a significant emotional weight for her, but lately it seems to be getting more intense. She struggled with anxiety about submitting the final product and the pressure she feels from work colleagues who are all eager to see what she comes up with. Sarah, voiceover. I know I shouldn't burden you with my problems, Keiko, she adds guiltily. But lately, it seems like everything is triggering these panic attacks. Keiko listens intently, feeling a deep sense of empathy for her colleague's struggle. She knows that mental health should be treated just as seriously as physical health and takes it upon herself to offer support. Cut to int. LAX Airport. Day. As Sarah continues to talk about the project, Keiko approaches her with a reassuring hand on her shoulder. I'm here for you, she says softly. Don't hesitate to call me if you need someone to talk to or just vent. Sarah looks up at Keiko with gratitude in her eyes and nods, grateful that there's someone who cares about her well-being. She takes the phone number of a mental health hotline nearby and begins talking. Sarah, voiceover. I've been feeling overwhelmed by my work lately, she says into the line. It feels like everything is just too much to handle. The call goes on for several minutes, with Keiko listening intently as Sarah shares her thoughts and feelings about the project, her anxiety, and her fear of not meeting deadlines. Cut to int. LAX Airport. Day. As Sarah finishes speaking, Keiko reaches over to tap on a nearby phone again. Is there anything specific you need help with? She asks softly. Sarah, voiceover. Not right now, she says simply. I'm just feeling overwhelmed and anxious about the project. Keiko nods understandingly before turning back towards Sarah, taking her hand in hers once more. You're not alone, Keiko adds gently. We all experience stress and anxiety from time to time. It's important to find ways to cope with it. Sarah looks up at Keiko with gratitude, tears welling up in her eyes as she nods agreement. She knows that the emotional support of a good friend like Keiko is invaluable during difficult times. Cut 2. EXT. LAX Airport. Day. As Sarah takes off from Los Angeles International Airport, Keiko closes her eyes and focuses on the sound of her plane taking off. The world around her fades away as she finds peace in the knowledge that she has a friend who cares about her well-being and is ready to support her during this challenging time. Fade out. Fade in. EXT. LAX Airport. Day. The day starts off with Keiko and Sarah, two close friends who share a bond that goes beyond just friendship. As they prepare to board their flight for Los Angeles International Airport, Keiko takes stock of her surroundings. The airport is bustling with activity as passengers rush through security checks and make their way towards the departure gates. She notices an EMT parked outside the terminal, looking concerned. Keiko, whispering, what's going on? Sarah, voiceover, I'm not sure. There's a man collapsed from a heart attack just minutes ago, and he needs medical attention. Keiko looks over at Sarah with concern. Should we call for an ambulance or check him out ourselves? Sarah thinks for a moment before answering. Let's wait to see if the EMT arrives first. As they stand by the EMT's car, Keiko watches as the man's condition deteriorates rapidly. The flight attendant approaches them and reports that he is being treated for an obstruction in his lungs. Fade out. EXT. LAX Airport. Day. Continued. The scene shifts to the terminal, where a small group of passengers are gathered around a table with medical professionals on it. Among them, Keiko recognizes Sarah as one of the flight attendants who had helped him earlier. They all take turns speaking about their experiences during the incident and how they handled the situation. Keiko, whispering, what was your role in assisting the man? Sarah, voiceover, we were assigned to check on the passenger before he boarded the plane, so we did our best to provide assistance. I checked his pulse and breathing while another EMT administered oxygen, but it seemed like his heart had stopped beating. Keiko, nervously, was there anything else you saw or heard? Sarah, voiceover, yes, when we arrived at the gate, a nurse came over and asked us to check on the man's vital signs again. She confirmed that he was not breathing, but rather having trouble registering his heart rate. Keiko, sighing. How do we know if this is an emergency? Sarah, voiceover. It could be due to underlying medical conditions, a sudden cardiac event, or even mental health issues such as anxiety. We need to take the necessary action to ensure that he receives timely treatment and stabilizes his condition. As they wait for the EMTs to arrive, Keiko takes Sarah aside for a moment and shares her concerns about the incident's implications on their relationship. Keiko, whispering, I know we've had our fair share of disagreements in the past, but I want you to understand that my feelings are not just personal. This is a matter of life and death, and there can't be any room for error or judgment when it comes to medical emergencies like this. Sarah, nodding, you're right. We need to trust each other and work together as a team to ensure the man's safety. I'll do my best not to let our past issues consume me during this crisis. Keiko nods, grateful for Sarah's understanding and support during such difficult times. As they watch the EMTs approach with their equipment, Keiko takes one last moment to catch her breath and take a deep breath of fresh air before returning to the table. Fade out int. LAX Airport. Day continued. As Sarah continues assisting the patient in the terminal, she reflects on the events that unfolded during their flight from Los Angeles International Airport. The incident served as a reminder of the importance of being prepared and having access to emergency medical resources when needed. Keiko, to herself, it's easy for us to get caught up in our own lives and forget about things like this, but we can't afford to let fear or anxiety hold us back from helping others. We must come together as a team to ensure that the man receives proper care during his stay at the airport. Sarah nods, feeling inspired by Keiko's words of encouragement. They both know that they will face challenges and disagreements in their friendship down the road, but with this incident under their belts, they are better equipped to handle any situation that comes their way. Fade out the mid-flight. A man collapsed from a heart attack on the flight to Tokyo. The other passengers were shocked and taken aback by his sudden appearance as he stumbled towards them with an unsteady gait. Keiko, the airline's attendant, rushed over to him at once and took one last moment to catch her breath before returning to the table. As she stood next to the man, a nurse plus an EMT confirmed that he was indeed qualified for emergency medical treatment. They quickly assessed his condition, performing various tests on him, while Keiko assisted them in administering medication and providing first aid. The flight attendant's arrest had sparked national outrage due to her role as a witness in the incident. As they waited for the paramedics to arrive, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of pride at seeing how she could make a difference in someone else's life. It was moments like this that reminded her of why she became an airline attendant in the first place, to provide comfort and support during difficult times and create lasting memories. The plane finally took off from Tokyo, leaving Keiko feeling satisfied with their efforts as they made their way back home. She couldn't help but reflect on the challenges they had faced so far, including the arrest of a flight attendant and the national controversy surrounding her actions. But she also knew that this incident would only strengthen their friendship in the long run. They were both determined to learn from these experiences and use them as opportunities for growth and understanding. As they sat back at the table, Keiko shared with Sarah how much care had been taken over the patient's treatment during his stay on the plane. We didn't expect this situation to happen, she said, but we know that proper medical attention is essential in such a critical moment. We're grateful for the support of the passengers who helped us stabilize him and the EMTs who worked tirelessly to treat him. Sarah nodded understandingly, feeling pride not just for her colleagues' bravery, but also for their commitment to providing excellent care during emergency situations. We know that we can't always prevent accidents or emergencies from happening, Keiko said, but we're committed to doing our best and ensuring that people have access to the help they need when they do. As the plane landed back in Los Angeles, Sarah couldn't shake off the feeling of satisfaction that came with knowing she had played a part in saving someone's life. She knew that their friendship would continue to grow stronger as they navigated these challenges together and used their experiences for the betterment of others. Fade out. Mid-flight, a man collapsed from a heart attack. Keiko shared with Sarah how much care had been taken over the patient's treatment during his stay on the plane. "We didn't expect this situation to happen," she said. "But we know that proper medical attention is essential in such a critical moment." The flight attendant was arrested for obstruction, sparking national outrage. As they landed back in Los Angeles, Keiko couldn't shake off the feeling of satisfaction that came with knowing she had played a part in saving someone's life. As they approached the airport, Keiko felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had been on high alert since the flight attendant's arrest and was relieved to finally see him again. "We're here," he said as they stepped off the plane, looking exhausted but alive. The nurse who had cared for him during his treatment stood by Keiko's side, a reassuring presence in an otherwise chaotic situation. Keiko led the EMTs through the terminal, explaining their findings to the authorities and ensuring that everyone was aware of the man's condition. "We've administered emergency medical assistance," she said, her voice steady as they made their way to the hospital. "He's been given oxygen and has undergone a heart catheterization procedure. We'll continue monitoring his progress closely." The news of Keiko's involvement in the incident spread quickly on social media, with many praising the nurse and EMTs for their quick thinking and compassionate care during such an emergency. The airline was faced with intense scrutiny over its handling of the situation, with some even accusing them of negligence. As they arrived at the hospital, Sarah felt a sense of responsibility to help ease the public's concerns. She spoke up on behalf of Keiko, explaining that while she had played a role in saving his life, it was not her intention to single-handedly blame anyone for the incident. "We recognize that our actions were indeed necessary," she said, adding with a smile. "But we're working closely with authorities and will provide all the information they need." The media attention on Keiko's involvement only served as fuel for his recovery process. He was discharged from the hospital just weeks after the emergency, thanks in part to the support of Keiko and her colleagues. The airline received widespread praise for its handling of the incident, with many praising the nurse and EMTs for their quick thinking and compassionate care during such an emergency. Despite the media attention, Keiko remained grounded and focused on his recovery. He continued working at a local hospital as a paramedic, using his experiences to better serve others in similar situations. Sarah, grateful for her colleagues' bravery and dedication, remained by his side throughout the ordeal, offering constant support and encouragement. As they walked out of the hospital, Keiko looked up at Sarah with gratitude.